The committee will come to order. The chair now recognizes Mr. Rose for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Before I get into my questions, Chair Grunberg, I'd like to say that as you consider any new special assessment on banks to replenish the deposit insurance fund, that you use your special exemptive authority in implementing that assessment to ensure that Tennessee bankers, and frankly bankers in a number of other states across the country, are not paying for the mistakes of Californian and New York bankers serving wealthy real estate moguls and tech-related venture capitalists. Tennessee bankers understand how to manage risks and should not be punished for the mistakes of those in our coastal banks. Now I'd like to jump right into my questions as time is limited. Chair Grunberg, the value of First Citizens Bank is up over 50% over just the last 5 days and is still rising. Shareholders have benefited by $3 billion by last calculation. Chair Grunberg, why did the FDIC cap its potential gain on First Citizens stock at $500 million?
I think it was a negotiation, Congressman, and that's what we were able to work out.
And so why not allow the federal government to recoup more of its losses? Why not and share in this outsized gain at First Citizens?
I wouldn't argue with that, but we had a negotiation with the acquiring institution, and that's what we came out with.
Okay. You think you had good negotiators at the table?
Maybe we could have been better. I don't know.
Okay. And Chair Grunberg, did you receive any pressure from the White House or other elected officials not to allow for consolidation of large or mid-sized banks with Silicon Valley Bank as part of the review process of potential bidders?
No, Congressman.
Okay. Vice Chair Barr, as you know, as committee members, we have been undergoing a series of briefings with regulators both at the state and federal level on these bank failures. Earlier this week, I learned that the California banking regulators were conducting their examinations of SVB remotely. Vice Chair Barr, can you tell us whether or not the Fed was also conducting its examinations remotely or on-site and in person?
My understanding is that there's a mix of activities. I don't know how much was on site. A lot of activity occurs remotely, doing analytical work and so on, but I don't have a precise answer to that question.
I hope you will provide that answer to us. As a former bank board member, I know there's nothing that strikes fear in the hearts of a banker more than an on-site review, and maybe for good reason and perhaps more effective. So we would like to know, I'd like to personally know the answer to that question as you conduct your review. You said earlier, and I think reaffirmed your quote, that this was a textbook case of mismanagement. I hope that you will conduct the thorough review to decide whether the oversight by the Fed examiners was being done in the way that it should, and that the escalation of that up to the through your process was appropriate, and that you will take appropriate actions. It seems to me, and I'll just say that, again, based on my personal firsthand experience, that you have the tools you need, and the question is, were they being used effectively? And I hope that in the days ahead, weeks ahead, we get to the answer for that question. Under Secretary Liang, earlier my colleague, Mr. Loudermilk, was questioning you about some of the comments of Secretary Yellen. And I guess I'm still a little bit confused, because I think what I'm hearing both from the Secretary and maybe from you is that if it's a systemically important bank that's failing, that there's going to be perhaps a more strident effort to make sure that no one loses. But if it's a less significant bank, like maybe the one that I was a director at, that perhaps the concern won't be as high. And can you clear that up for me, and am I mishearing what you and the Secretary are saying?
Yes, Congressman. The point that we've been making is that we would use the systemic risk exception or our end tools to prevent contagion in the broader system if a bank were to fail. And that could be a bank of different sizes, and it would be designed to keep all American depositors safe.
You understand, no doubt, the confusion that these statements leave some of us with. And so I just wonder, do you have confidence in Secretary Yellen at this stage?
Absolutely.
And so, you know, as I think about what I've heard today, earlier, Al Green, I know it's not a quote of my mother, but it's a quote I heard often, is that it doesn't just have to be right, it has to look right. And so as I leave you, gentlemen and ladies, this afternoon, I would just say the American people are watching, and I think right now we have grave concerns about whether the regulatory process looks right. And so I hope you take that to heart as you conduct the review of what you're doing. I don't think, my personal conviction is that you don't need new tools, that you need better craftsmen using those tools to accomplish the purposes that you have. And so I commend that to you. As a former bank board member, I feel like if Silicon Valley Bank had the supervision that I feel like our bank got, that we wouldn't be here today talking about this. Thank you, and I yield back.